Welcome back to Rumi Gold, where quiet mastery begins. What if the very thing you're searching for is already humming beneath your own skin? What if the harder you push, the harder life pushes back, and there's another way? What if everything you ever wanted to build was meant to grow from stillness, not struggle? What if energy was the only currency that can't be faked? And what if every day spent chasing clever tactics is costing you something no dollar can buy? Today, we explore the idea of alignment over strategy, not as a tactic, but as a truth. So pause for a breath, drop the weight just for now. Give yourself permission to set the endless plans down, all the clever edits, hacks, angles, blueprints. Imagine them sitting idle on your kitchen table while you slide quietly into a different seat, the seat of the witness, the self who no longer plays chess against himself. Let that land. Take an inventory. Where, lately, have you been sprinting for answers that never seem to land? What's the cost of all this effort, not just in time or money, but in calm, in dignity, in how you feel about yourself? Where do you notice the ache, that sense of this should be working by now, but it still isn't? Is it in your work, your relationships, the slow heaviness of mornings that don't feel like a clean start? No need to name it with precision. Just scan the landscape. You already know. There's a corner of your life, maybe many, where the engine S always firing, but the wheels always spin, strategy after strategy. The mind building pyramids, while the body goes hollow. The mind says more, but the soul says something is missing. Let that breathe. I've come to see the trade. Every step I take from pure force, from the brittle energy of I have to, or else, robs the room of something softer, older, more intelligent. The muscle of patience goes weak. The eyes lose their light, and still we tell ourselves, it's just a rough patch. Hard work pays off. I just need the right playbook. But the truth is, and it took me years before I could voice this to myself, the cost is always higher than we calculate. You can earn money back. You can make back lost time, sometimes, but you never quite refill your own life force as easily. The inner battery doesn't recharge through bigger goals. It doesn't spark with another deadline. This isn't about motivation. Just look at a man who has burned out twice, who woke up not to new dreams, but to empty rooms, white walls, quiet phones, art he no longer loved. That's not rock bottom. That's the aftertaste of running on fumes, ignoring the signals, choosing cleverness over clarity. Can you feel the difference, even now, between movement and momentum, between acting and acting from integrity, between chasing and being drawn? Sit with that. Chase has a sound. It's frantic. It's loud. It splashes like water out of a tub. Being drawn is silent. It's gravity. It's the chair that sits heavy and stable. Nothing to prove, nothing to defend. You already feel it. The ache isn't just exhaustion. It's confusion. It's the price you pay for fighting your own current. Hands that claw the riverbank but never let go and let the river guide them. You can hustle harder, stack one strategy on top of another, or you can learn the subtle art of letting energy lead. What if the next phase of your life, the truly quantum shift, isn't about learning something new, but remembering how it always felt to be yourself before all the noise? That's the discipline. Notice now, as you listen, your breath. There's no shortcut to patience. There's no hack for depth. That's why monks sit in silence, why mornings are prized. Why nothing ever grew taller by screaming at the sun. Every tree just learns when to root deeper, not when to shout louder. You already know this, so maybe all that's missing is trust. Trust in your own current, the small yes inside the body, the part that says, here, not there, now, not next. Strategic hustle matters, but not when it's disjointed from source. Energy is the gold. Clarity is the only coach you need. If you're tired, honor the tiredness. Don't fight it with caffeine and call it ambition. If you're restless, get silent. If you're confused, don't plan, breathe. There's nothing to prove. So we begin this season, not with new moves, but with remembering how it feels to be rested, to be still, to be rooted in a form of power that has no audience. You don't have to grind. You can let gravity do the work for you. Start where you are. Let energy, not anxiety, set the tempo. That's the rarest discipline. And it's available to you now, like breath or morning light, or the sound of your own heart in a quiet room. Let's be honest. Most of us grew up believing there was only one way to build a strong life. You work more, you push harder, you grind. Every hour spent in motion is supposed to bring you closer to what you want. It was everywhere. At school, at home, in those first jobs. Hustle, get the grades, score the position, stay late, do extra. Sleep became the enemy. Rest was suspicious. This mindset is old, but it's alive. It turns men and women into machines. It makes you think you're only safe while you're doing. You're only valuable when you're exhausted. That's in the air. You can feel it in boardrooms, on construction sites, at the gym. Strategy gets worshipped. Structure is God. Every decision is weighed, mapped, optimized. If you're not planning, you're falling behind. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. That's what we were told. Let that echo. We missed something. Nobody talked about energy, about frequency or resonance. Nobody explained presence. No one paused long enough to see how the room actually felt. It was just more. And if you've ever sat at your desk, staring at a glowing screen, knowing you've checked every box but still feel stuck, this is for you. Picture Daniel, 37, 2 kids, a good marriage, a body that remembers too many late nights. Daniel did everything, written paper. He followed every rule. He upskilled, networked, hit his goals, but his jaw is tight. He's wired. Can't sleep. Always thinking about the next step. Or maybe you know someone like Brianna. She built her entire business from scratch, hustled for 10 years. She hit 7 figures, then felt nothing, just more emails, another deadline. She kept optimizing her strategy, her marketing, her sleep, never once asking what her body was asking for. Never once wondering why her energy was empty, even when the calendar was full. Doing everything right, still stuck. That feeling of being inside a box with no doors, only tasks. You already know this. There are patterns here. We think if we design the perfect plan, map every move, double-check every possibility, then safety will come. Then the thing we're seeking will land. But efforting from fear makes things tight. Overthinking is loud. There's so much noise in your mind, you can't even hear yourself breathe. This isn't about being right. In martial arts, when someone tries too hard, their moves are stiff, predictable. They telegraph every punch, they become easy to read. Only when they relax, let their awareness spread, does their technique get sharp. In work, in life, it's the same. Force is not always power. Busy hands don't always make beauty. Craftsmen know this. If you keep chiseling at stone without stepping back to feel the shape, you wreck the sculpture. If you try to force the wood, it splits. If you pour cement on a foundation that's not settled, the house cracks. Overworking the art kills the flow. Rushing destroys harmony. More effort can mean less result, but nobody tells you that. You're rewarded for rushing, for urgency, for always angling for more. We all want to build something that's valid. But when ambition comes from a scared mind that thinks lack is everywhere, it leaks out as anxiety, as controlling, as never enough. Let that land. Notice how tired you get when the brain runs the whole show. Notice how nothing feels complete, no matter how much you check off. You're stacking bricks, but nothing holds. You're tightening every bolt, but the engine won't start, because what you're building isn't coming from resonance. It's not aligned. At some point, if you're honest, you see the same results. More action, less magic. More thinking, less creating. More plans, less presence. That's the pattern. We trust plans, not presence. We effort from fear. So results get smaller and smaller, even as energy spent gets bigger. Like pumping water into a well with no bottom. It doesn't have to be dramatic to be true. The discipline is about seeing this without self-judgment. Noticing when you're grinding just to feel in control. Catching those moments when you're strategizing to soothe fear, not to create. Let what you already know float to the top. This isn't about motivation. It's just the truth that the deeper your breath, the clearer your signal. The quieter you move, the more power you hold. And sometimes, the discipline is stopping, the willingness to feel where you're forcing, and to let the next move come from resonance, not reaction. That's the difference between working from fear and building from power. Sit with that. What if everything you're chasing out there still starts in here? What if the most complicated plan collapses if the foundation is restless? What if nobody can feel your offer because you don't feel it yourself? And what if force, no matter how sharp, never cuts as deep as true frequency? We live as if strategy is the real signal, as if the calendar, the team, the Excel sheet is what moves the world. But it's never like that, not for long. Energy is the seed. Before you plant the project, before you craft an offer, before you try to impress anyone with the finish, there's always the seed. You can have the richest soil, but no matter how hard you water it, if there's no life in the seed, nothing grows. That's the discipline. Think about a morning where you wake up already tense. You step into the day, check your phone, messages stack up. You want everything handled, but your field is scattered before you've made a move. You follow the script, but it's just motion, not movement. Even the smartest execution slides off the surface when the core is off frequency. The law of resonance is quiet, but absolute. Your inner state always speaks first. You can't hide it behind color-coded plans. You can't sell conviction if you haven't bought it yourself. It doesn't matter how many webinars you launch, or how much polish you add to your pitch. If what's inside doesn't match what's outside, people feel the dissonance at a glance. Picture this, a misaligned launch. The branding is on point. The emails go out. The funnel is flawless. But beneath it all, the creator is anxious, doubtful, half convinced. The audience doesn't need to see his journal to feel the static in the air. The numbers don't lie. When your state is off, nothing connects. It's like turning up a radio that's not tuned, just more noise, not a clearer song. Let that land. Energy is also the signal. It's not the flashy logo that draws people in. It's the undertone, the signal behind the action. Like a room that feels safe long before anyone says a word. Think about when you're around someone, calm. Even in chaos, you breathe easier. There's nothing dramatic, just resonance. People feel it. The marketplace feels it. You can't fake the way a presence settles in a room or across a screen. Energy is the soil, the environment every decision grows in. If your soil is thin, tired, frantic, even the best seeds won't thrive. They sprout for a day, then wither. This is why so many beautiful plans fall flat. You might build a 3-year roadmap with all the milestones mapped. But if you build it from a place of panic, even the best strategy won't stick. It's like laying tile on quicksand. The more you polish the details, the more the foundation swallows it up. You already know this. There's a quiet cost to pretending your energy doesn't matter. You step into a meeting, deliver a lukewarm offer. You say the words, keep the smile. But inside, you already know it's not alive. They nod, they clap, they sign the contract. But the spark isn't there. It never takes root. It doesn't have to be dramatic to be true. You remember the effort. You forget the outcome. The field stays empty. We've been told to run harder, optimize more, higher, smarter. But we skip the part that matters. The seed, the signal, the soil. If you walk into a silent room, holding stress behind your eyes, the silence will amplify it. If you walk in at ease, your presence fills the space quietly, and everything shifts around you. Imagine a craftsman at his bench. If he works with tension in his shoulders, the wood chips splinter. If his breathing is steady, the cut is clean. The tool is the same. It's the being behind the hand that shapes the outcome. That's the discipline. Sometimes you want to skip ahead. You tell yourself you don't have time for energy work. You just want to roll out the strategy, move the parts, hit send. But every time you shortcut resonance, you end up moving twice as much for half as long. It's like a kitchen full of ingredients. If the cook is distracted, even the finest recipe falls flat. People taste that, even if they can't name it. A business built in chaos can drive numbers for a season. But what grows in fractured soil eventually bears empty fruit. Let's sit with that. This isn't about motivation, it's about mechanics. The true law is frequency. You are already broadcasting a signal. Every room, every call, every offering, it starts in the frequency of your being. You don't have to force this. You only have to return to it. Before you press send, before you pitch, before you build, check the seed, check the soil. There's nothing to prove. There's something to ground. Let that land. You know the feeling. That moment when you sense you reforcing it, pushing your way through a door that was never yours to open. The tension grows with each step. It's subtle at first, like the hum of distant machinery in a supposedly quiet room. But sooner or later, your chest tightens, your jaw sets, your hands grip the invisible steering wheel a little too hard. That's efforting. That's what it feels like to move from head, not heart, from should, not sense. Everywhere you look, you see this pattern. The man who launches a new business with the energy of a soldier going to war. The collaboration built on secret scarcity, the silent question behind each email. Will I be left behind if I push? The body, sleep-deprived and caffeinated, grinding out strategy after strategy. Scarcity convincing you that force equals progress. And if you zoom out, you see it's never sustainable. Yes, Things get done, but at what cost? You succeed, but you're hollow. You earn more, and yet lose presence. It's the feeling of stacking bricks with trembling hands, never stopping long enough to see if the wall even belongs in your life. Let's sit with that. What if there is another way? Not laziness, not passivity, but something more ancient aflow that emerges when will and wisdom move together. This is the law of effortlessness, not the absence of action, but the absence of friction. Action that arises like breath enforced. You already know what that feels like. Think of a morning when your work felt like water. Everything unfolded quietly, tasks completed in the order they appeared, not a moment wasted calculating or correcting. That's the taste of resonance. Taoist sages called it wu wei, non-doing. But it's not doing nothing. It's doing without the strain of ego. Picture a great river winding through a valley. The river moves, always. It shapes mountains, carves canyons, but doesn't force its way. The river flows where gravity asks it to go. No effort, no resistance. Yet over time, it changes everything it touches. You can bring that into your life today, not as a motivational tactic, but as a lived truth. When you chase with force, doors that should open quietly become barricades. When you act from resonance, even heavy doors seem willing to swing open. There's nothing to prove. Let's look closer. Resistance-fueled action is like hammering away at a nail that won't drive straight. You keep working, sweating, adjusting your grip, but the wood keeps splitting. The job gets done, but the mess remains. Resonance-propelled flow, on the other hand, is when everything lines up: the tool, the hand, the wood, the evening light, the same work, but clean. No extra marks, no second guessing. You already know this. Maybe you remember a season where everything was a fight. You woke up tired, went to bed unsettled. Your calendar was packed, but your heart emptier every week. That's what happens when you force from ego. The body keeps the score. The mind tries to justify, but your energy doesn't lie. Where in your life are you forcing? Where are you moving for the sake of movement, not because anything in you feels called? This isn't about motivation. There's a different path. When you move from what fits, you enter a rhythm that feels inevitable. Every step small, but somehow complete. Start noticing how this shows up, maybe in how you respond to emails, or the way you enter a meeting room. Are you showing up like a river, quiet, certain, present, or like a storm, loud, impressive, gone as soon as it came? It doesn't have to be dramatic to be true. The wisdom says, let your actions be like water, firm, patient, flowing. Trust that presence is often louder than hustle. You are allowed to pause, to check in with the quiet voice inside you before charging ahead. Sometimes waiting is the next aligned action. Sometimes doing less is real power. Let that land. Let's start here. What if there's no algorithm to master except yourself? What if the most powerful leverage is how you show up at the kitchen table, in your inbox, with your very breath? What if every technique, every hack you've tried, was always downstream of your being? Pause with that. Maybe you've been tricked into believing someone else's strategy, like their blueprint, can map your future, like your next breakthrough is buried in their checklist. But every sale, every connection, every door that's opened for you, look closer. It was your frequency at the moment that made the opening possible. There's a pattern here. A friend writes from their gut, doesn't push, doesn't grind, yet money finds them. Another moves through their day with steady hands and a quiet schedule, and the world leans in, curious, generous. You see them, and a part of you feels they aren't playing a part, they are the part. Let's sit with that. We've been taught to seek secret strategies out there, formulas on a board, algorithms behind the scenes. But the real strategy is permission. Permission to become the person who matches what you want. Not a version that's performing. One that's clean, fully integrated, that commands what it earns without noise. Embodiment is the strategy. It doesn't mean perfect posture or some mystical aura glowing off you. It means congruence. Your walk matching your word, your attention inside your skin. When your actions are an echo of your real priorities, not just public signals or borrowed language. That's embodiment. It means you stop outsourcing responsibility for your outcomes. You start carrying your own frequency. Like a stone dropped in a still pond, your presence creates movement in everything nearby. Let's take this out of abstraction. You know the coach who always seems to attract the right fit, charging more, working less, and it feels effortless. It isn't a trick. They radiate what people come for. Their inner peace is visible through the screen. Their algorithm is living peace. This isn't about motivation. Look at the writer who stopped trying to sell in every sentence. They just spoke from direct experience. They trusted the unseen rhythm. Some offers landed, some didn't. But over time, their truth became magnetic. Readers leaned in. Buyers appeared. No panic, no hidden scarcity. People can feel it, even online, even in silence. You're never truly hiding. Maybe you're playing small because you think there's a missing piece, a system someone else owns. But the code is you. You are the algorithm. You are the product and the process. You are the container and the contents, the how and the why. It doesn't have to be dramatic to be true. Let's try something right now. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture yourself living as the version you keep, waiting to become not in your head, but in your body. See it as a movie. Feel the smallest details. How are you moving through rooms? What's the look in your eyes when you answer the phone? What's the first thing you reach for in the morning? See if you can sense one scene clearly. Imagine the weight of your watch on your wrist, the warmth of your coffee mug, the exact way your shoulders settle when you realize there's nothing to chase. Neville Goddard called this living in the end. Not a daydream, but an inner reality. Stay here, just for another breath. Let this future you show you a small action, simple, repeatable. Maybe it's responding kindly to an email. Maybe it's stepping outside without your phone even. If it's only for 5 minutes, you already know this. Every repetition of this scene inside you, every time you embody even a piece of it gains weight, it grows roots. That's how you update the code. That's how you become the plan. Embodiment is never someday, it's now. In the middle of a Monday morning email, in a crowded room, in a quiet moment before bed when the world isn't watching. That's the shift. People sense it. They act as if you've already arrived. Opportunities respond as if you're already inhabited by your own future. Let that land. There's nothing to prove. Every magnetic business you've ever seen, every peaceful leader, every quietly wealthy person, they built alignment, not just systems. Their strategy is themselves, fully present, always refining, never rushing. They learned to listen to their own frequency, the same way a craftsman listens to his tools, or a boxer feels the next move in his bones. You are the plan. What stays when the checklists are tossed, the market shifts, and nobody's watching? Sit with that. That's the discipline. There's a reason quiet people aren't always trying to do more. They already know what you sense in your body right now. If something was truly meant to last, it doesn't show off. It just stays. Take a breath where you are. Let that land. This isn't about motivation. This isn't about reading more, chasing harder, or collecting gold stars for some god you've never met. It's about the laws that run underneath all strategy. The physics behind real change. What happens before your mind even makes a plan? First, truth. Energy always comes before execution. If there's no root, there's no tree. If your state isn't clear, the action collapses. Think about how you move on a morning when you slept well versus when you didn't. One is unforced, the other is a drag. You know that feeling. Everyone does. That's what shows up in your money. In the room when you walk in the eyes of people who take you seriously, or don't. Let that settle. Now the second. Forcing action repels flow. Every time you push from lack, the result feels hollow, even if you finish the task. Try to water a plant by squeezing the soil, end up with a mess, not growth. That's not softness, it's physics. You don't have to convince soil to accept water. You just have to stop trying so hard. Embodiment is the only strategy that lasts. When it's in your bones, you don't have to remind yourself, like the guy who never forgets to breathe, or the way you hold posture when you know you belong. Nobody can fake that for long. There's nothing left to fix once it's real for you. And that's why all this stacks up the way it does. If energy is grounded, the behavior is clean. If you let go of force, flow comes looking for you. If you walk it enough times, you become it. This isn't about motivation. Look at the details in your day. The way your hand moves when you sign something. The way you sit in your chair before you open an email. These little things show you whether you're running a script or living from the present. Only one way grows wealth quietly. Be here. On purpose. Every small thing counts because that's where reality lives. Not in the fantasy. Not in the old stories. You can practice this today, not tomorrow. As you step outside, walk slower for 2 seconds. Let the air hit your skin before you answer a call. Put your feet flat on the ground. If you're paying a bill, feel the sending, not the losing. These aren't mantras, they're evidence. Try one thing, even for a minute. See how your body tells you what's real. Let that echo. This is what abundance is, not a number, not a goal. It's a frequency you carry, even with your eyes closed. Money is a tuning fork, not a scoreboard. Leadership isn't domination. So calm you stay when everyone else forgets. Success isn't about moving forward. It's about returning home. You already know this. Abundance comes when you leave the old chase behind. When you lay down the war against yourself. When you decide to move from enough, not toward it. There's nothing to prove. Stones don't chase their place in the river. Fire doesn't try to convince you it's warm. Mornings just rise quiet, inevitable. That is prosperity. Breathe in the discipline. Here are 8 vows for a man who has nothing to lose, nothing to prove, just the willingness to live. I move in silence. I move in silence. Wealth expands as I do. Wealth expands as I do. My energy commands my outcomes. My energy commands my outcomes. Force leaves when presence arrives. Force leaves when presence arrives. Leadership starts inside my breath. Leadership starts inside my breath. I hold enoughness at the center. I hold enoughness at the center. My actions carry my truth. My actions carry my truth. I allow abundance, not because I chase, but because I remember. I allow abundance, not because I chase, but because I remember. I lead from clarity. I lead from clarity. I lead from clarity. Let the rest fall away. Sit in the silence that builds men. Your life is proof enough. Wealth was always the frequency, not the fight. And now, may what